Get on board, we're ready to go. See the world from the Scenic Railroad, from the snow-capped mountains to the sunny coast, on the great Scenic Railway journey.
Welcome to Great Scenic Railway Journeys. Hi, I'm David Holt. It's been said that the best way to see a country is from the footplate of a locomotive. It's also a great way to appreciate the toughness and ingenuity of our ancestors. The story of the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad, tucked away here in the far southwestern corner of North Carolina, is one of endurance. It's a story that begins with the land.
Imagine a world where the sun rises on a land only lightly touched by the hand of man. A land where a million trees strain to touch the sky. Where rivers roll and rampage down mountainsides. And where distant peaks beckon with the promise of unseen wonders. These are the Great Smoky Mountains of North Carolina. This is the home of the railroad that defied the odds, endured tragedy, and survived, despite those who would have seen it disappear into the mists of time. The Great Smoky Mountain Railroad is 53 miles of track, built with the blood and sweat of countless convicts through some of the most imposing terrain you can imagine. The railroad winds through these breathtaking mountains across a landscape so rugged it was once known as the Back of Beyond. Rivers keep the train company on parts of its journey. Farm fields say hello in other places. High railroad trestles speak to the ingenuity of days gone by. Narrow, dark tunnels to the hard work of those who toiled on chain gangs.
The Back of Beyond, a romantic name for a harsh reality. The price for early settlers making these beautiful mountains their home was often deep isolation and hardship. But life for these frontier folks would quickly change, thanks to the sounds of a steam engine's whistle.
Trains first began rolling along these tracks well over 100 years ago. Their arrival in the 1880s had a profound effect on this breathtaking corner of the world.
Changed everything. Because this area was the Back of Beyond, and then with the coming of the railroad, this area went through a transition that had taken the rest of America like 200 years. It went from the frontier to the forefront of American technology in a matter of 10 years.
Pristine forests gave way to lumber companies and loggers. Towns sprang up where none had been before. Travel suddenly became much easier. The region's rich natural resources could ride the rails to markets in the outside world, and store-bought goods could find their way in. But before that could happen, the rails had to be laid.
The construction of the railroad certainly was a monumental task. Financial hurdles at the beginning, and then the physical construction was just almost mind-boggling as to the things that they did.
Foot by foot, yard by yard, using simple hand tools and rudimentary explosives, the railroad battled its way through the mountains, reaching completion at Andrews in 1891. In its heyday, the Murphy Branch, as it was known back then, was one of the busiest short-line railroads in the country, but its claim to fame would not last long. Just like the advancing technology that brought the railroads to these mountains, it would also be the driving factor that was leading it to its demise. With the building of better roads and the rise of the automobile and trucking after World War II, the railroad began to see a rapid decline in traffic. By the late 1980s, its owner, Norfolk Southern, had begun the abandonment process. Just 48 hours before the tracks were due to be ripped up and sold for scrap, a group of local people, led by Malcolm McNeil, persuaded the state of North Carolina to step in and buy the line. Once again, the railroad became an economic engine for the region, giving modern-day tourists a chance to experience a little of life in days gone by.
Your journey begins here at the old depot in Bryson City. You know, novelist E.M. Forster said, railroad depots like this one are gates into the glorious and unknown, a way to pass into adventure and sunshine.
But before that sun-filled adventure can begin, engineer Tony Franklin and the rest of the train crew have a lot of work to do.
First thing we do in the mornings is we get on our engine here, we start checking the oil and the water to make sure we're good on that.
Engines are checked. And cars are shifted and shunted into place. The excitement and anticipation build as the band breaks into a little mood music, mountain style.
Ride that great Smoky Mountain Railroad. Hey, listen to the whistle, you can watch them drivers roll. Like going back in history, it's still the same, ride a train. Gonna ride a train.
You just can't resist a little toe tapping and hand clapping when somebody starts singing the praises of the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad.
Yeah, thank you very much, thank you.
All aboard! Nantahala Gorge Excursion. All aboard! All aboard! Tickets, please.
Finally, the train is ready, and the adventure begins. As the Nantahala Gorge train pulls out of Bryson City to begin its 4.5-hour journey, the passengers get ready to enjoy a ride packed with history and wild natural beauty.
Y'all are gonna have a fun train, right?
In the first-class cars, passengers settle in for first-class treatment as the train pulls out. For many, this trip marks a special occasion.
So we had a birthday celebration, and one of my dearest friends is celebrating her 38th, and we were looking for something different to do, something that would bring us together, not create separate experiences. So it's just been a great excursion for us to celebrate.
For others, it's a way to experience the country in an entirely unique way.
It's definitely a time machine that's very fun to ride.
Good morning. Tickets, please.
Conductor Warren Hargis punches tickets and chats with passengers, sharing information on the journey and the railroad.
In a few minutes, we're going to come across a trestle. Now, this trestle is nearly 1,000 feet long. It's where we cross Fontana Lake.
Warren's enthusiasm for the railroad is infectious.
He was absolutely terrific. He has this wonderful voice. He looks just like a conductor's supposed to look. He just was great because he could tell us so many things we never would have known otherwise.
It's an experience that transcends generations.
If I had to choose playing video games at home with my friends or coming on this trip, I'd choose the trip.
But beyond beautiful scenery and the novelty of a train ride, this trip is somehow more than the sum of its parts.
It's something you hear over and over again on the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad. Time just seems to slow down when you're on this train. I mean, after all, you're only going about 17 miles an hour. But you feel like you have all the time in the world just to sit here and enjoy the scenery.
The pace is just right. We love to laugh and talk, and it creates an environment of that. The staff has just been fabulous, and the other guests on the train have also just made it a great environment for us to laugh, have fun, and relax.
In places, broad vistas reveal rippling waterfalls of kudzu draping the trees and hillsides. Elsewhere, dense forest crowds in, so close you feel you could reach out and brush your hands through the branches. It makes you wonder, is this what this land was like for the first settlers? The landscape is ever-changing, the journey diverse.
Most railroads around the country don't have what we have. We have tunnels. We also have a high trestle that goes over Fontana Lake. Now this trestle is nearly 1,000 feet long and it's on concrete piers that stand 179 feet tall. We go across this trestle at a slow pace so people get an opportunity to enjoy the view and perhaps get a few snapshots as we go across.
The view from the bridge is breathtaking, and because the train slows to cross it, passengers get the chance to really absorb their surroundings.
When we hit the trestle and I looked out the window and I saw all the magnificent trees and all the magnificent beauty of America, and it was just a wonderful, thrilling moment for me to see it. It was beautiful.
It's really a picture-perfect view, so perfect even Hollywood has taken notice. The Fontana Trestle is just one of the scenic locations along the two Smoky Mountain Railroad train routes that have served as backdrops for movies. Both the Nantahala Gorge and Tuckasegee River trains are favorites with movie producers and location managers. Just about everyone involved with the railroad has a story to tell when it comes to working with movie crews, and the newspaper clippings prove it. The railroad was key to some of the most exciting scenes from the 1993 blockbuster The Fugitive, starring Harrison Ford.
The Tuckasegee train goes from Bryson City to Dillsboro, and it goes right by the original wreck site. Now this is the largest stage train wreck ever in history. It's really cool to see.
The railroad spent over a year planning this wreck and getting the site prepared. This exclusive home video, shot by the train crew, shows test run after test run as they and the Hollywood producers worked night and day in preparation to get the one take just right. Finally, the big night arrived.
There were 16 cameras positioned around the wreck site, and when the train came to a stop, one of the cameras was buried under about 8 feet of dirt.
All the advanced preparation and the hard work involved in the test runs paid off. The efforts of the crew at the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad became part of movie history. The Fugitive train wreck site is just one of the highlights of this Tuckasegee train excursion. It's a totally different experience from its sister trip through the Nantahala Gorge, but one just as rich in history. The Tuckasegee River train chugs past farm fields and across bridges on its journey back in time. Some of the cars give you the feeling of being on a train in the Old West. You never know, you may even encounter a bandit or two. But where bandits lurk, the Lone Ranger is sure to follow.
Hands where I can see them. Bring them up.
I mean, really, Father, when I got a bigger gun to fight you with?
Walk.
Walk, walk.
This type of onboard entertainment adds to the experience, especially for the kids. Hey, who wouldn't love a genuine silver bullet from the Lone Ranger?
I've focused on doing children's events, whether it's Thomas the Tank or Polar Express. I even brought in some oldies that are going to become new ones, like the Lone Ranger and other different experiences. We have found that on a weekend we can get 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 children out if we do a good job, and we introduce them to railroading.
And to the real history found by taking a journey on this railroad. The train passes the site of the Gadua Mound, one of the Cherokee Nation's most sacred places. Today, the mound is only 5 feet high, worn down by years of cultivation as a farm field. Building this section of the railroad was no easier than the rest. Completing the tracks from Dillsboro to Bryson City meant hacking through the mountain to create the Cowee Tunnel, site of one of the most tragic events in the building of this railroad. While building the Cowee Tunnel, the convicts were kept on the other side of the Tuckasegee River in work camps. One day, a barge carrying the prisoners, which were chained together to prevent escape, flipped over in the river. The chains did their job too well, with 19 of them drowning.
They're buried in a grave on top of the tunnel. Legend has it that the water that constantly drips here is actually the tears of the convicts whose souls can't stop weeping.
I don't know if that's true, but I do know the pitch-dark ride through the Cowie Tunnel is one of the eeriest things I've experienced in a long, long time. Just seeing the slashes of white where the picks gouged out the rock is enough to send shivers down my spine. If going through the Cowie Tunnel is one of the most sobering things on the Tuckasegee River trip, then one of the most adventurous on the Nantahala Gorge trip is the chance to go whitewater rafting. Some passengers choose to ride the train up the gorge, then ride a raft back down to the Nantahala Outdoor Center. After dropping off rafters at the top of the gorge, the train parallels the Nantahala River at times, keeping pace with the bright blue and yellow rafts bobbing along in the swift-flowing water. For passengers, connecting with the rafters is one of the most fun parts of the journey.
And waving back and forth to the boaters and seeing how much fun they were having out there and how interested they were in seeing us up here. It was really cool.
After the trip through the gorge, the train pauses on its journey at the Nantahala Outdoor Center. The layover gives passengers the chance to stretch their legs and maybe enjoy a picnic by the river. It's also a great place to watch kayakers challenge themselves at the NOC's paddling school and on the whitewater racing course.
I think it's cool watching them go up the current and trying to fight against it.
Fighting against the current, rolling and dipping through the water, watching these expert kayakers is like watching a finely choreographed ballet.
And one of the best places to watch all the action is right here on top of the bridge that spans the river. Now here you get a bird's eye view of all the water sports going on. And on a warm summer day like this, it's tempting to join them.
Or you might be tempted to join the hikers passing through on their journey along the Appalachian Trail. The trail crosses the tracks at Nantahala Outdoor Center. Walk with them a little ways and you can always say you've hiked at least some of the trail. But don't go too far, because before you know it, it's time to get back on board for the return journey.
One of my favorite things about the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad is the many ways you can experience the journey. Now, my favorite place to be is in the open air car, because if you're a nature lover, this is a total feast for the senses.
Where else can you feel the breeze in your face, smell the trees, listen to the rushing river?
We are more outdoor people, and you can see the flowers that are growing along, and even the kudzu is beautiful. I mean, some people consider it a pest, but it's really beautiful along this ride, the way it grows up the trees, and you can smell the plants, and you can feel the fresh mountain air.
It was very relaxing, a nice break from the day-to-day, from the hustle and bustle of work and your daily schedule to come out and just kind of be at one with nature and enjoy the air.
In the first-class carriages, the chance to be surrounded by history is part of the allure. From the 1940s Art Deco Champion car to the wood-paneled McNeil car, the journey is a chance to experience the opulence of train travel in the past.
The wood, but you have to look at the lights. You know, I didn't expect those beautiful lights up there and the framing of the wood on the windows, the carpet on the floor. I didn't expect any of that beauty.
You have the barbecue serve? Yes. There you go. And you have the salad. There you go. Enjoy your meal. Thank you.
The thing I love about first-class service is the first-class food. Look at this variety. Juicy hamburger, fresh salad, chicken wrap, Carolina barbecue. I love these choices. I think I'm gonna go with a hamburger. Man, that looks great.
What a lot of folks don't know is that you can actually book the train's caboose for a private party. The scenery from the end of the train is spectacular, with its unobstructed view of the world passing by.
I remember watching the trains pass when I was a kid and waving to the brakeman up in the cupola above the caboose. I always wondered what it would be like to ride up here. Well, it's just one of the things that makes a journey on this railroad a memory maker.
Most people who ride the train expect to see beautiful scenery and learn a little history. But the train has an unexpected gift for many.
It's a very romantic trip, you know, just feeling the sway of the train going back and forth, listening to the hum of the wheels.
But maybe the best way of all to feel the heartbeat of the train and the rumble of the wheels and the growl of the engine is the way engineer Tony Franklin does, from the cab.
Running passenger trains, especially the longer the train, because we go up and down over an assortment of different degrees of hills and climbs, it's keeping your train stretched out so that you don't get any slack rolling in or jar your passengers around.
And that's not likely to happen when it's Tony's hands sure and steady on the controls. He plays the throttle of this 120-ton engine like the most delicate of instruments. Even after 17 years looking out at the world through the windshield of the cab, Tony hasn't lost his enthusiasm for the job or for sharing the mountains with his passengers.
You can get on a train and just sit back and relax, and we do the driving for you and enjoy the scenery and the sounds, the clickety-clack, the smoke, all that stuff, the smell of the brakes. It's all railroad. Once railroad gets itself into your blood, it's there. You can't get it out.
And who would want to when this is what you see out your office window every day?
For Tony, as well as the other passengers, like all good things, your trip on the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad has come to an end. But just because your ride is over doesn't mean your journey is. Walk a few steps away from the train and you can journey through a history of American model railroading here at the Smoky Mountain Train Museum. Come on in. You're not going to believe what I'm about to show you.
Here at Smoky Mountain Trains, we have a 1,000 square foot layout. We have a huge freight yard with usually 200 to 300 freight cars in it at all times. We have working crossing gates at all the grade crossings. We have lots of animation. We have 78 switches. We have close to 1,000 feet of track.
It's a 45-foot extravaganza of flashing lights and puffing steam engines. Everywhere you look, there's something to amaze and delight visitors. If you don't believe me, just watch the kids.
I expected just to ride the train and, you know, eat lunch and ride it back and go home. You know, I never expected there to be a museum and, you know, all that. It's icing on the cake.
The museum houses one of the largest collections of Lionel trains on the East Coast.
There are more than 7,000 pieces on display here at the museum, covering every type of railroad rolling stock imaginable. This little beauty is the rarest of them all, a 1937 passenger train worth over $10,000. But that pales in comparison when you realize the entire collection is worth over $1 million.
But without a doubt, the centerpiece of this whole museum is the layout. It took 15 people in 4 states more than 18 months to get it up and running.
When I walked in and first saw this, I went, wow, how did they do that? How did they put all that together? Because it took a lot of planning to make it all happen with all the track and all the lighting and all the moving pieces and parts and the timing of everything. It was really fascinating how they arranged all of it. It was very impressive.
The museum is the perfect complement to the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad. In fact, you might say it's a match made in railroad heaven. Whether it's on the train or at the museum, there's a common bond that binds everyone involved together. It's a bond made of steel and forged in the crucible of hardship, in the price paid for every yard of track, every foot of tunnel. It's a bond strengthened by the experiences of the passengers as they relive a part of our heritage, a part of our history.
It's important to preserve this for our children, so they'll take time out and come here and spend some time on a train.
And sometimes just seeing a young kid, their first train ride, and giving them a unique experience that they'll never forget.
Ralph Waldo Emerson said that railroad iron is a magician's rod in its power to evoke the sleeping energies of land and water. Maybe for the children who ride the train today, that magic lies in the railroad's ability to spark a deeper understanding of and appreciation for our nation's past.
Well, you know, I think it's important that we preserve history itself. I'm a passionate fan of historic preservation, and railroads happen to be my particular niche. And the reason that I'm so passionate about it is I believe we need to understand our past, both the good and the bad, because history is the roadmap to our future. There are lessons to learn. If we want to preserve this American character, then we have to know our past, because that's what tells us where we're going.
Just as the Smoky Mountains endure, so does the railroad. From hand-dug tunnels to high trestles and steep curves, every mile of track is a testament to sacrifices made and hardships suffered. The railroad is the living legacy of those who dedicated themselves to taking this distant corner of North Carolina from the back of beyond into the promise of the future.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed our journey on one of North Carolina's true treasures, the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad. Until the next Great Scenic Railway Journeys, I'm David Holt. All aboard!
Get on board, we're ready to go. See the world from the Scenic Railroad. From the snow-capped mountains to the sunny coast. On the Great Scenic